The upbringing, you figure when I was 9 months old, my father took a tin bucket, he welded a pole to the end of it, he stuck us in the bucket, and he chinned it up and stuck it on his forehead, and he was getting us used to heights because he was an acrobat. We lived over in we started out at the Vernon Circle over there, off the highway off of 84 there. And we lived in a trailer. And my father, we had the tallest tree in the trailer court. And my father de-limbed it and put his perch pole way up on top. So he would start doing his acrobats because he was by himself. He didn't even have us then, or if we were probably 6 months old. So he started doing his acrobats on his own. So he'd be way up in this thing, and as you're coming down 84, all the cars over there would look over and you see this guy way up above the treetops doing these handstands and stuff. And then, so he wanted to get an act going, and he was a linesman for Hartford Electric Light Company all his life. He did the telephone pole, so the height was no problem for him. But he always loved this, being on the road, doing the circus thing and carnival thing, so he intermixed the two his entire life, and we'd be gone every weekend. Summers, we'd be gone. He'd take a little leave of absence, and wherever the money was, if the money was bigger over there, he would just pack us up and we'd head out. So we formed this little act, Al Morgan and his Toy Boys. Wow. And we started in local bars in Middletown, where I can remember being up on this stage with all these drunks around throwing quarters and change on the, working for change. And as the act developed, we upgraded, and then we got into the carnivals and state fairs, and then we started doing shows for nightclubs and all the Air Force bases around, and then it graduated to the Boston Garden, and we were doing commercials for unicycles out in California, and we ended on Don Amici's International Showtime, which was a weekly televised composite circus act that came together in different parts of the country.
Wow.
Once a week. So we were on Sherbrooke, Canada, and I think that was about 66, 67, maybe 65. Tall perch pole, you walk out, he put it on his forehead, and I'd chinny up to the top and do a headstand with no hands, and my brother would go up and do his handstands and stuff. And that was sort of like the end of the line, because we were all getting to the age where Vietnam War, my brother was in the service, and I went to art school, and everything kind of dissipated. When my father passed away 10 years ago, it was at that time I really felt I inherited that legacy, and I felt I could carry on the act, which he always wishes someone did, on my terms, through my art. And my situation, I had put myself in a perfect situation where I could isolate myself in Maine for 4 or 5 years, and that's what I went up there to do, is just work with that legacy and no interruptions, by myself. My wife would come up weekends, I'd come down here, share the time, but I had total isolation. I had money in my pocket. I had an incredible art studio. I redid a big Grange hall up there, which was like a 5,000 square foot studio. And I just painted these pictures, drawings on canvas, clear coats that would do this and that. And I carried on that act for my father. And I periodically jumped back and forth into that. Once I exhausted that, and that put me into other things. Well, those other things, you learn something, and whatever I learn, I can take a little of that and jump back into the acrobats and approach it with a little newfound knowledge, and it gives me a little more, because I always feel comfortable going back to that, because that was 20 years of my life. Yeah. During the formative years of your life, so it's kind of hard to deny. So that will always be in my work periodically, I'm sure, forever. I've been working with drawings, concentrating on drawings exclusively for probably the last 8 years or so. I sort of abandoned painting because I used to draw and paint together. So I started doing these drawings at a circus, which involved this other thing, and then they were continuous. They were coming out of a drawing pad book, and these drawings stemmed from a seed that was an actual accident, where when you're doing these drawings, and I'm protecting the bottom pages with a sheet of cardboard so you don't put these scribed marks in. And in the process of getting involved with the work, sometimes you get so excited you forget to put the cardboard in. Next thing you're doing a drawing, and you finish the drawing, when you flip the page, you got all these scribed marks on the underlying pages. Yeah. So you say, shit, they're all ruined, so I'm throwing all these pages away, right? And starting to know, and then trying to remember to put the thing in and doing a drawing. Then sometimes you forget to put the protector in, and once again, I've got all these scribed lines under 3-4 pages underneath that are disappearing as they go deeper through the drawing book. And then I says to myself, why is that such a problem? You know, why is that not the right thing to be looking at? So it becomes, I guess, what they talk about art coming out of process. Yeah. I guess that's the term, what they mean by that. So I started saying, so now I've got all these scribed line pages, and I'm looking at them, and depending upon where the pressure is and where they're evaporating and where they're being pronounced, they're sort of like giving me a starting point to start these next things. So then I started doing a bunch of drawings like that using the scribed pages. And then I started getting a little more violent, a little more rugged with the paper, and all of a sudden the page started ripping, you know, and I'm saying, oh shit, I'm trying to put it back and band-aid it from the backside. But then as it's ripping, now I'm noticing as I flip the page, it's making some kind of, not only do I have the scribed marks, but I've got a partial drawn line flashing through. So now I got a couple elements working. So then I did a whole bunch of drawings working up through that, multiple page drawings, like sort of like prints, one from the other. Then I took a book and I'd see how hard I could go through it to see how many pages I could get into it. Overlapping, you know, if you're an artist for 30 or 40 years, even if you don't learn much, you learn a few things along the way. And way back when, I realized, I made the simple conclusion that everything is either an angle or a curve or a combination of the two. And I always saw man as being very good at doing the angle, but he can't compete with nature as doing the curve. Mm-hmm. So that's that little thing is always in all my work. I'm always looking for the curve and the angle, or the straight line. And with this body of work out of these pages, the line was already down there for me, so I could concentrate pretty much on just the curve. The thing I learned way back when, you know, you got a piece of art, some people labor, they're into a rendering, laborious type of artwork, which is fine, which I like a lot of. And but what I always wanted to do, if I could create the most incredible piece of art by just snapping my fingers, that's what I want to do. Yeah, I would say that's so exciting to see these things happen so quick. And the whole thing, I view my art as more of a film, and these are just like, what do they call those little... Like
a frame?
These are just frames, you know? So I mean, that whole book is probably the picture. And these are, and this film is just flashing through my head so fast, and I'm just desperately trying to grab these little pics of it, you know, before the thing disappears and it's gone, and it's gone. Then it's another voyage, you know. I'm looking for something else. Different times.